Well, I thought that in focusing on the keynote, on the illuminating energy of pure reason, I would take this little first session to examine what the Tibetan means exactly when he says that the energy of pure reason is synonymous with love. He actually said that the heart as an aspect of pure reason requires careful consideration. It's usually considered the organ of pure love, but esoterically it's considered as pure reason, and he asks us to reflect on why that might be so. So looking at the etymology of it, which is always helpful in these instances, the word reason actually has evolved from the Latin ratio, as those of you who are in the school will know from the last school letter. And so thinking of reason in terms of ratio moves us into the realm of sacred geometry. And as the Tibetan points out, we're told that God geometrizes. In fact, we hear that in all the great philosophies of the world. And this is when it's referring to the activity of the second aspect, the love, the building aspect of the universe. And he says that a subtle geometric form lies behind exoteric manifestation. So love and reason, then, they both describe an intuitive understanding of the divine ratios that make up this geometrical form, the quantity, the shape, and the strength of colour of the composite forces in relation to one another. The forces have two prime qualities, direction and magnitude. And that's the two qualities or characteristics that the esotericist deals more and more with as he goes further and further into the esoteric sciences. Forces, their quality, the direction of them, the magnitude. So just for 90 seconds or so, we've got a short video that I hope Michael's going to be able to play to you now, which shows how a basic geometry underlies the actual structure of the universe. And it's very much in keeping with the law of economy. So if you could show that, Michael.
Is a sphere, but if they touch each other, they can save material for both of them by sharing a common wall, and so they do. If they can save surface area by taking advantage of their environment, they will.
So when you've got just one bubble, the sphere is the most efficient shape. But as we add more bubbles, we see the geometry changing. So in this case, we've got 4 bubbles, and you can see them meeting at a point. But put a shape in the middle, we don't get a spherical bubble. We get, in fact, a little tetrahedron. With 4 faces, they're not exactly flat, they're parts of spheres. But each time, the bubbles are trying to find the most efficient shape for the arrangement of bubbles. So now we've got 6 bubbles, we've got a little cube appearing in the middle. This is nature's laws at work. The universe is always trying to find the most efficient solution it can. And as we pop them, the bubbles change, finding the most efficient, until we're left with a sphere again.
It has no choice.
But what's most remarkable is that those solutions are so often neat geometric shapes.
Wow, that's a dodecahedron. That's fantastic. And they're almost perfect pentagons, aren't they? That's really surprising. They're not bulging really very much at all.
That's right. That's right.
So 12 bubbles around make 12 faces, and the most economical shape that they can make, the lowest energy, is the dodecahedron in the middle.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that the question that immediately comes to mind is, where do you get such amazing bubble solution? But apart from that, it really throws light on the whole philosophy of the mathematical side of geometry and the Platonic solids. I know I was always slightly mystified as to how the Platonic solids, the tetrahedron, the cube, octahedron, the dodecahedron, etc., how they play a part in the actual formation and building of the universe. But from this it becomes so clear, and the law of economy, which always looks for the least expenditure of energy, and that's an esoteric law, not just an exoteric law. You'll always look for the smallest surface area to inscribe any volume of energy. And that, of course, we know is true with spheres. The circle and then sphere is the fundamental shape. But when they start coming together, then you get the divine breath. We can think of, in that video, we saw the chap blowing into the center of the accumulated bubbles. But when the divine breath comes into that, then all these beautiful Platonic solids can start to manifest themselves. So from that, just that very simple illustration, we start to get an idea of how geometry can indeed stand behind the whole of manifestation. But that's just a basic simple one, because the sort of geometrical forms we're talking about take on all sorts of different forms when we move on to the inner planes. And the Tibetan actually gave us an indication of what these forms were in some of the formulas in Discipleship in the New Age. You may remember the 6 formulas, such as lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from chaos to beauty. And descriptions are given of these forms. They can be the imposing of order onto chaos through the sun upon the square, for instance. But you can research those if you're interested. So what it also brings to mind is that the divine plan is, in one sense, a construction, because all of the planes that we are talking about, in whether it's the astral plane, the spiritual planes, the highest monadic and plane of AD, they are all part of the cosmic physical plane. And so from the greater perspective, they do then, the whole of the divine plan is concerned with the building of some kind of qualified quality structure. So the whole point of this is that when we think of thought form building, that's exactly what's happening on the inner planes. When we actually build thought forms according to the quality and the love that we condition them with, so will these beautiful structures start to take place. And according to the amount of glamour that's in our thinking and in our energy bodies, then so will these ratios, the ratios between the forces that make up the constructions of thought forms, be discolored, disproportionate, and lead to illusion. So the whole idea then of creative concentration, I suppose, is what it's about. It's contacting thought forms on the inner side of life, and it's precipitating these thought forms in association with a plan, ideas, through the creative imagination. And it can be in the form of quantity, structure, geometry, and change. All these thought forms are always changing shape and in the way that they condition us. So really it was just to give an idea, and I'll come to an end now as time's running out, but we may have time a little later on to explore it further. It's to bring the idea of thought forms and exactly what they are back into view. And I hope that that little video that was just shown just shows that there is indeed a beautiful symmetry behind evolution.